They call it the Sunshine State, yet tens of thousands live in permanent night, shuffled from benches, ticketed for sleeping, erased from the selfies that sell paradise. Beneath the palm tree skyline, a hidden front line stretches from Miami to Pensacola. Tents under freeways, families bathing in gas station sinks, seniors pawning wedding rings to pay rent that outpaces their pensions. This Rome-kind documentary follows the unspoken battle where zoning meetings replace gunfire and price hikes replace bombs. We'll ask the question, hotel billboards never print. How did a vacation fantasy become a survival course, and could you survive it? Stick around. The next chapter of Florida isn't written on sand. It's scratched into concrete, waiting for someone to read it. Number 1. Beyond the postcard, the Florida few see. Ever walked along a perfect shoreline and wondered what's hiding just out of sight? That's Florida's secret side. A few blocks from resorts, theme park glitz, and Coachella-style pool parties, there's a different scene unfolding. Picture tents made from old tarps, shopping carts overloaded with personal belongings, people huddling under bridges. That's not a dystopian film set. That's real life. It's easy to see those Instagram sunsets and imagine paradise. But ask yourself, how far is paradise from someone sleeping in a car? The contrast is stark. Tourists get sunshine, selfie moments, piña coladas. Meanwhile, families eat dinner in parking lots. Delivery drivers nap in vans after 12-hour shifts. Retirees, priced out of the dream they worked for, now read by flashlight in the backseat of their sedans. According to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's 2024 report, Florida ranks among the top 4 states in homelessness. More than 31,000 people are unhoused, and that number increases every year. Think that's remote? Think again. Homelessness in Florida is not isolated. It's becoming structural. It's baked into the cost of sunshine. This isn't about addiction, laziness, or failure. It's about systems that reward tourism while ignoring the people holding the broom, the ladle, the stethoscope. It's about cities that advertise luxury but quietly relocate anyone who doesn't fit the brand. These are not strangers. They're people who once waved to you from across the street. Teachers, servers, nurses, veterans. You've thanked them with a tip, a nod, or a smile. Now they're living in a tent near an overpass. Why do we romanticize the landscape but ignore the lives in it? Is it easier to sell a sunset than a story of survival? Are we blind to the suffering, or just choosing not to see? Now close your eyes and imagine paradise. Then open them and ask, is paradise still paradise if half its human story is invisible? Number 2. The rent rises and people are pushed out. What happens when your zip code becomes someone else's luxury investment? When your apartment turns into a spreadsheet entry, not a home? In Florida, rent has outpaced wages like a bullet train, leaving a bicycle behind. Since early 2020, rent has climbed by 38%, but wages barely moved. That's not inflation. That's a relocation notice. For thousands, the gap isn't math. It's the difference between sleeping in a bed or behind a steering wheel. This is a homelessness crisis that doesn't scream. It whispers until it's your turn to pack. New towers rise, ocean views are monetized, and developers pop champagne. That rundown motel where a family once stayed? Gone. replaced by condos with infinity pools, the old apartments where teachers, janitors, and care workers lived, flipped into glossy, overpriced units. There's no plan for the people left behind, just promises of revitalization. But revitalization for whom? Whole blocks are transforming. Communities built over decades are splintering overnight. Long-time residents don't just move, they're priced out, pushed out, erased. A neighborhood isn't just brick and mortar, it's barbers who know your story, the corner store guy who gives your kid free gum, the mural painted by teenagers one summer. That's what's being bulldozed. Meanwhile, essential workers, the ones who serve food, clean hotels, fix pipes, are commuting hours, sleeping in vans, or crashing in motel rooms that eat up half their paycheck. High taxes and rising property values sound like progress until the cook can't afford breakfast, the cleaner can't afford clean sheets, the teacher can't afford the district she teaches in. What's the tipping point? Should housing be treated like a stock portfolio or a human right? What does development mean when the people who built the city can't afford to stay in it? Let's end on this. Florida's skyline is rising, but so is the number of people packing their lives into boxes, leaving behind neighborhoods that no longer remember their names. Number 3. Survival is criminalized. In some places, sleeping under a roof is a right. In parts of Florida, sleeping under a tree is a crime. That isn't a dark meme. It's law. In October 2024, Florida passed House Bill 1365, banning public camping or sleeping on sidewalks, parks, streets, beaches. By June 2024, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld that cities may cite or arrest people sleeping outdoors, even when no shelter is available. So legally, a survival act now equals a citable offense, punishable by fines, jail time, and warrants. Picture this: you work all day, and when night falls, you're fined for want of a bed. In Miami-Dade, police explained they have to move people from one block to the next because shelters are full. It's a cruel kind of musical chairs, except the music never stops and there are never enough chairs. If a town doesn't enforce the ban, residents, business owners, or the state can sue the city. So the message is clear: make the homeless visible and punishable. Supporters say it's about behavior, not status. But if your only options are a bench or the pavement, what's the real difference? Stay alive, stay illegal. Homeless advocates warn, this turns safety nets into snares. And here's a kicker: 60% of camps get swept, with no new shelter beds added. Think about that. 6 out of 10 people are displaced, shuffled around, then criminalized. Are we really making anyone safer? When survival becomes a punishable offense, who's the real offender? The person with no choice, or a system that removes all choices? This isn't law enforcement, it's social displacement with a citation pad, and nobody's safer for it. No shelter, no bed, just a bench. Would that be loitering or living? Drop a yes if that line feels blurry, a no if it's clear to you. Number 4. One crisis away from the streets. Not every descent into homelessness is a slow burn. Sometimes it's a lightning strike. Florida doesn't need hurricanes to uproot lives. Sometimes it takes just one slip, one missed paycheck, one medical scare, and suddenly you're staring at your rearview mirror, wondering how this became your bed. Take Marjorie. She's 61, a retired librarian from Fort Myers. When her partner passed, her rent doubled overnight. New landlord, new price. Her pension? Too modest to afford housing, too high for assistance. So she parks her car behind a drugstore, sleeps with her seat reclined, and reads Steinbeck by flashlight. She never imagined this. But here's the twist. Neither did anyone else who ended up here. The homelessness crisis doesn't wait for a long fall. It shows up fast. Layoff, hospital bill, rent hike, one domino tips, and the whole line crashes. There's no trampoline at the bottom, just concrete. And working doesn't save you. A person earning $26.74 an hour must now work 92 hours a week to afford a basic one-bedroom in most Florida cities. That's not survival, it's performance under pressure. And when life adds just one more demand, the act collapses. Marjorie didn't quit. The system did. The lines for aid are long, the forms unclear. Hope has office hours, and she's locked out. She's not addicted, violent, or lazy. She's just poor and running out of places to park. 1 minute you're paying rent, the next you're negotiating with gravity and fate in a parking lot. This is Florida's storm, with no headlines. But behind the postcards, it's pouring, one crisis at a time. Number 5. Employment doesn't guarantee housing. Get a job, they said. So people did, and still slept in their cars. Sounds like a punchline, but it's not funny. In Florida, full-time work doesn't guarantee a roof, not even close. It's like running on a treadmill that speeds up while you're still tying your shoes. The numbers don't lie. According to reports from 2024, a worker making $26.74 an hour would need to work over 90 hours per week just to afford a modest one-bedroom apartment. That's not thriving. That's barely surviving. And only if your car doesn't break down. So yeah, your barista might be homeless, the grocery clerk who bags your apples, living in a motel with 3 other people, the hospital janitor who mops up your mess, washing up in a public bathroom before their night shift. These are not stories from another planet. They're from your neighborhood. This is the new class divide, the working homeless. People who do everything right, who clock in, smile, say, "Have a nice day," and sleep in their cars, who pay taxes but can't afford housing, who serve drinks at weddings but can't afford rent for a studio apartment. A contradiction so sharp, it cuts the American dream in half. In cities like Orlando and Miami, service workers are the gears that keep the machine running, but they can't afford to live near the machine. So they drive hours, or sleep in parking lots, or quietly disappear into corners of churches and back seats and no overnight parking zones. There's no room for surprise anymore. This isn't fringe, it's the new normal. Wages haven't caught up. Benefits are riddled with red tape. Rent? It's moving like a luxury car, fast and out of reach. And here's a question. What's the point of a paycheck if it doesn't buy you safety, shelter, or sleep? The American dream doesn't come with a parking permit, but for too many, it comes with a pillow stuffed behind the steering wheel. Know someone working full-time, but still without a home? Or maybe it's you. If this hit close, comment "Working Still Homeless" below. And before we move on, take 10 seconds to hit subscribe and support WandaQ. We've got more untold stories you won't want to miss. Number 6. A broken safety net. They say there's a safety net. But what if it's full of holes? That's Florida's broken safety net in a nutshell. You'd think SNAP, Medicaid, and housing assistance would catch those wobbling on the edge. Instead, most end up sliding right through. Picture this. Someone working 2 part-time jobs, earning just enough to disqualify from help. Welcome to the working poor trap. They make too much for housing aid, but too little for a place to call home. Does that sound fair? It doesn't. And it leads to a homelessness crisis that's whispered about, but never fixed. In Orlando and Miami-Dade, wait lists for assistance stretch for years. Shelters are full, yet still fragmented. Families often sleep separately just to get a spot. Can you imagine asking your kid to split up so you all can sleep somewhere safe? That's a choice people make every night. Shelters demand ID, proof of income, background checks. Meanwhile, the ones who need help the most can't produce any of that. They're stuck outside with no plan B. The system isn't broken. It's just not built for the people breathing its dust. They say government programs exist, but for too many, these are fairy tales. The rules are too strict, the process too slow. And guess what? By the time someone qualifies, if they ever do, they've lost their community, their job, their hope. That's not an assistance program. It's a revolving door back to square one. So here's the twist. You work hard, you play by the rules, and yet the system still fails you. That's not just irony. It's modern Florida life. Have you ever felt like you were close to being cut loose, even with a job? Share your story. What would you change? They say there's a safety net, but if it's full of holes, can it really catch anyone falling? Number 7. Mental health forgotten in the crisis. It's easy to talk numbers, harder to talk nightmares, trauma, and shame. Because homelessness doesn't just take your house, it takes your peace of mind. Stress, fear, guilt, and exhaustion become daily wallpaper. Every move, every ticket, every dawn relocation chips away at hope. People whisper about mental health, but Florida's budget says otherwise. The state ranks near the bottom in per capita investment on public mental health. That's not a number. It's a system slipping. Psychologists, social workers, crisis responders, they're disappearing. Facilities are underfunded. Appointments are backed up for weeks, sometimes months. That means someone in emotional freefall stays in freefall. What if that's you? What if that's someone you love? Let's zoom in. Mental health isn't a luxury. It's the scaffold holding people up. Without it, every life event, a job loss, a breakup, a health emergency, can knock you off the ledge. Add to that the brutal schedule of moving shelters, court dates, fines. Add the shame of being asked to leave yet another city block. There's no privacy, no peace, just a mountain of paperwork and bruised dignity. We spoke with a case manager in Tampa. She said, by the time they reach us, they've already been rejected 5 times. 5 times. Institutional walls, application dead ends, eligibility traps. People give up. They disappear into silence. This isn't failure. It's system fatigue. Mental health support isn't optional. It's critical. In Florida, it's missing where people need it most. That absence deepens the crisis. It's like expecting a house to stand without a foundation. What do you think? Could better mental health care prevent a collapse into homelessness? Have you seen someone fall through a gap in the system? Share your story. Let me close like this. When budgets ignore mental health, poverty festers. And when poverty festers, homelessness becomes inevitable. Florida may have sunshine, but for too many, darkness lives inside, unseen and untreated. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by stress or watched someone you care about fade under pressure, you know this crisis hits deeper than numbers. Comment, mental health matters, if you believe no one should be left behind in silence. And stay with us. What comes next might just be the turning point. Number 8. Youth falling through every crack. High taxes or poverty? Seems like a choice for adults. For Florida's youth, it's neither. It's just life. Over 94,000 students, from kindergarten to seniors, experienced homelessness in the 2022 to 2023 school year. That number isn't a statistic. It's a corridor of kids couch surfing in motels, sleeping in laundromats, or sharing beds with strangers. How many ended up studying by the glow of a phone in a parking lot? Quite a few. Then there are the unaccompanied youth, those without family or guardian support. Again, a growing number. Teachers only see their clean uniforms, but the kid might have slept in a car last night. A school counselor in Jacksonville once said, "Students show up clean and quiet, but they've been sleeping in a car for weeks." That's not resilience. It's a survival routine. Data shows these young people are twice as likely to drop out, score worse, and miss school than their peers. Nearly 40% are chronically absent. Let that sink in. 2 out of every 5 homeless students aren't in class. That's not just education lost. That's potential slipping through the cracks. Ask yourself, can a kid dream about college when they don't have a bed tonight? And if they ages out of foster care at 18, who's guiding them then? Many end up bouncing between relatives, sleeping rough, or worse. That's not courage, that's collapse. Still, there's hope. Programs like McKinney-Vento help these students stay in school and get transport. Nonprofits and local ranches offer mentorship, shelter, and stability. But is that enough? Shouldn't these supports be standard, not special projects? What does it say about us if we let homelessness crisis rob our kids of their future? If a child can't rely on home, shouldn't we build safety nets strong enough to hold everyone? Not pity, structure, support, futures. Number 9. A society pulling apart. When you criminalize the poor and praise the polished, what does that say about the soul of a city? Walk through any Florida downtown on a sunny afternoon and you'll see the contrast. Designer shops, rooftop brunches, influencers filming oat milk lattes, and just around the corner, a man with a sunburned face holding a cardboard sign that reads, "Still human." We don't always notice the signs, but we feel the divide. Some cities are cleaning the streets, not of trash, but of people, especially before big events or tourist weekends. Not for safety, for aesthetics. You don't want a tent in your wedding photo, right? That's where the homelessness crisis becomes personal. Because it's not just about shelters or housing. It's about the story we tell ourselves, that they are different, lazy, dangerous, choosing this life. But the truth is simpler. No one chooses to suffer. These labels give us permission to look away. But when society labels someone a problem, it stops offering them solutions. And slowly, a city loses something vital. Not buildings, not tax revenue. Empathy. One local campaign in Central Florida aimed to remove every visible trace of homelessness before a festival. Hundreds of people were relocated, fined, or moved along. No permanent housing offered. No caseworkers added. Just vanishing acts. Magical, right? Here's the twist. The community applauded. Not because they hate the poor, but because they were told it was progress. But what happens when your neighbor disappears? When someone you greeted at the coffee shop is suddenly gone? How many disappearances does it take before we notice something's wrong? Cities can rebuild roads, but can they repair their conscience? How clean is too clean? Let's talk. Drop a quick, "Gone too far," if you think moving people isn't solving anything. Number 10. Seeds of hope breaking through. Not all stories end in despair. Some take a hard left turn through it, then somehow keep driving. Across Florida, in the cracks of policy failures and budget gaps, small green shoots are pushing through. Seeds of hope, breaking past bureaucracy and burnout. They don't come with hashtags, no billboards, no Hollywood scores, but they're here, stubborn, quiet, and real. In Gainesville, inclusionary zoning laws now require every new development to include affordable housing. Doesn't sound sexy, we get it. But you know what does sound good? Not sleeping in your car. It's housing that's not just for the rich, but for teachers, cooks, retirees, the ones who make cities livable. In Tampa, locals are buying bonds to build transitional housing for families teetering on the edge. Regular people funding real stability, not flashy programs, just humans helping humans. Something algorithms still can't replicate. Then come the nonprofits, no longer just handouts, but real, strategic interventions. Picture this: mobile shelters pulling into city parks at night, with beds, case managers, even therapists on board. Mental health on wheels, a pop-up safety net. Suddenly, homelessness crisis doesn't feel so invisible anymore. Youth housing is finally being taken seriously. With over 94,000 homeless students in the state, programs are stepping up, not with pity, with plans, jobs, therapy, dorm-style housing that says, "You belong here," because every couch-surfing teen deserves more than a sleeping bag and a shrug. Public awareness is also shifting, slowly but surely. Communities are starting to see that removing tents doesn't remove the problem. It just relocates it. What works? Housing-first policies, trauma-informed care, partnerships that listen before they legislate. Let's be clear, this is not some miracle wave. It's not even a trend yet. It's more like underground roots, connecting, growing, lifting. Fragile, yes, but relentless. Have you ever seen weeds grow through concrete? That's what this moment feels like, against all odds, not for attention, but because life insists. Progress might be slow, but hope, like roots under pavement, always finds a way through. So here we are, standing between beachfront resorts and folding chairs under overpasses. Florida doesn't lack buildings. It lacks homes people can actually live in. The skyline stretches higher each year, while more folks sleep in its shadows. But hey, maybe that's just city planning, right? At Romekind, we're not here to preach, just to ask, who are we building paradise for, and what gets paved over in the process? Have you ever seen a side of a city that didn't match the brochure? Drop your thoughts below. We read everything.